So I'm recording this on the same day I made the other video. You probably already see this often if you really pay attention. It's like, was he wearing the same clothes as he was? Anyways, today's topic is going to be on the breakdown of the education system, or rather, the renewal of it. So, I'm just going to draw up the chart, or rather, I'm going to the chart for this one, but here we go. Ta-da! Oh, wait. I have to change the angle of that one. Okay, here we go. Hopefully you can see it well. Yeah, it's not fitting the whole page here, so. But what I'll do is I'll try to fit it in at the very top so that you can see it for those who are actually curious about what it looks like. Unless I do this, let's see what happens. I've done this before. Let's see. I guess that's too big. Okay, so I'm gonna do this again. It's part of the whole process of learning how to work with technology, right? So here we go. So you kind of see most of it. Sort of. Okay, here we go. Alright. So I think we're kind of almost ready here. Alright. Okay. So those who don't know, this is going to be in 2025, July 7th. It's way ahead, sort of way ahead, but I kind of thought I'd do this because I'm a teacher, and specifically I'm a language teacher, or rather I was qualified to be a language teacher, and this is something that's, I think it's unique. So yeah, I just wanted to see what the chart will look like for that specific day. It's going to be dated it's midnight, or is it 12 p.m.? Okay, so 12 p.m. is exactly when Uranus enters Gemini, 0 degrees. Okay, 0 degrees, like 0 degrees, 0 minutes, or 0 seconds. It's not exactly, I don't think it's exactly 12 p.m., but that's the closest I can get without going too specific and like, as you can probably see, Uranus will be there. But it'll also be, first of all, just to let you know, it's kind of a disclaimer, I don't really do mundane astrology, like political stuff, like worldly stuff, but it's still fun for me, because that's the whole point of why I do astrology. It's fun. It's fun. If you guys have seen the show Buffy, there was a scene with Glory, I don't know if you know, from the 5th season of Buffy, she goes, fun. Every time I hear fun, it's like, I want to do that. So, anyways. Okay, here we go. Something in my throat. Okay, so Uranus represents, for those who have already seen, there's a lot of things it represents. These are from the books of Judy Hall and the book called The Only Way to Learn Astrology. I forgot what Joan McEvers, and then there's another person with that. But anyways, I combined their information. This is what they're saying that Uranus is, okay? So revelation, chaos, vibration, unpredictability, nonconformity, deviance, transformation, liberation, research, breakdown, the misfit, attraction, repulsion, genius, technology, electricity, experiments or experimentation, inventions, originality, science, electricity, magic, occult, light, astrology, psychology, x-rays, airplanes, insight into nature's laws, futuristic humanitarianism, intellect, eccentricity, bohemia, egotisticism, dictatorship, individualism, ingenuity, rebelliousness, autonomy, revolution, sudden changes, unexpected, earthshaker, what's new and challenging, tradition breaker, law breaker, neutrality, sexlessness, natural disasters, inventiveness, instability, violent upheaval, anything dangerous, computers, magnets, perversions, cramps, quantum physicists, researchers, antiquarian, astrologers, scientists, Nietzsche's, sculptors, computer programmers, scientists. Wow. A lot, right? So, no need to be taking notes, right? Because, you learn as you go. There's more to it than that. And these are what these astrologers have discovered. If you did your own research, by the way, I might make a video on this where if you did your own research on all the planets and any of the planets, any of them, you'll see you base it on the mythology and you take it literally figuratively and literally, because that's what I've been doing with the asteroids, and it's just like, it's fun. It's actually for me, it feels there's accuracy in it, but it's not 100%, but it's still fun. That's my main point. It's fun. So going back to this whole thing, I digress a lot. So Uranus is going to be in 0 degrees. So there's going to be a lot of changes, right? Gemini is about education. Gemini rules lower education. Well, I would say lower, but younger generation, like elementary education. What is it? Okay, so it rules education in general, like when you're younger, education rules like siblings, kind of rules like the third house kind of stuff, relationships, people, not necessarily relationships, but like siblings, kind of like that, communication, because it is Mercury ruled, transportation, short trips, adaptability of the mind to learning and new ideas, ability to relate to environments. So in other words, immediate environment. Okay, taken for granted skills. That's more of a third house thing. Conscious and objective part of the mind. Primary schooling, again, elementary schooling. Short journeys or short traveling. Learning immediate environments, like I said earlier. Neighbors, matter of speech or learning style. That is also a little bit more the third house. So, again, for those who don't know, like if you're new to astrology, the houses behave differently, than this compared to the signs. There's slight differences, but basically it's basically the same idea, because the houses are just aware. So you have to think of it literally like where, somewhat figuratively, and also where as in literally. So that's really what the houses are, right? The signs are the how and why. So it's more about the expressions of that planet, because Uranus and Gemini on a worldly level, like worldly sort of thing, it's going to be a huge change in education. It's going to be, because it's also conjunct Venus, it's also going to be educational systems pertaining to entertainment, pleasure, things that have to do with entertainment, pleasure. So we're talking like anything from cars to riches to money to banks to what do you call this? Movie theaters, movies, film industry, TV, all that stuff. It's going to be a change in how we're going to educate, because it's conjunct. It's going to be about how we educate each other. Venus will definitely be moving away eventually from Uranus, because it's a faster moving planet than Uranus. So that means Uranus will still be changing for the whole time that it's in Gemini. For how long, I'm not really sure. I know that it's in each sign, was it per several years? So this is the way I do astrology. I don't like to memorize. If you're not the person who likes memorizing, and if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Make it just like this. There's no reason why it has to be so like old ways, like you're so prepared and everything's organized. You're so perfect. You know what you're doing. No. I learn on the go. I learn as I go, because for me, it's all about creating stories. It's about relating with people I help, right? So let's double check how long each planet is in each sign. It's somewhere here. I totally forgot. I think it's in this book, or is it the other one? Anyways, it's in a few years. It's going to be in Gemini for a few years. Not that you need to know what that is, because you just have to feel it. The way astrology works is just revealing what's already there. I'll repeat. Astrology reveals what's already there. So in other words, even if it's the future thing, because time doesn't exist in reality, in this grand scheme of things, here it exists. It's linear. That's the way we see it. We perceive it like that. But that's our perception because of ego. So yada yada yada. That's just esoteric stuff, but it's connected to this one. But the point is that it's going to be there for several years. I would say. Actually, I didn't even need to do that. I just needed to go to the ephemeris. So, let's see. So, 2025, Gemini. Okay. It's going to be in Gemini for... It's actually going to go back into Taurus come November 9th. So there's going to be a pull towards sudden changes in the, not just education, but in the banks and financial systems. So it's going to go back a bit, November. So, but, we'll worry when the future comes, when it's, Uranus is out of Gemini. So because it's connected to Venus, it's also including, at least in this specific time frame, I don't know for how long. I didn't look that up because I don't want to look it up. That's my thing. And I'm not just trying to rebel. It's just like, I feel like it's not that important. It's just for me, this is fun, right? I'm repeating this again. This is fun for me. So going up to, if I want to look up the whole thing, like in detail, I could, if you have any questions, look it up. The ephemerises will show that, because they'll show which Uranus is in transit. If you go to astro.com, you'll see how it's actually, like the ephemeris there will show where Gemini. You know what? I'm just gonna do it here. Anyways, let's see. So it's back. It'll be back in Gemini in 2026 of April. So it'll go into Gemini and then it'll pull back. It'll be in retrograde. It'll just pull back. It won't be retrograde. It'll go direct. February 2026. I think it says here February 2. That comes in time with like Neptune going into Aries, I think. Let me double check that. February 2, Neptune, yes, around that time. Yep, Neptune will be in Aries, but that's for another video. So, the point is, it'll be in Gemini. So there'll be educational reforms, particularly with not just entertainment, but because Gemini also rules communications, any forms of communication. That does include AI and the technology connected to that. But that also means like not just younger education, but education in general. And I feel like it's time. It's been happening as a language teacher myself. Gemini isn't exactly language per se, but it is communication. So Sagittarius is more about foreign languages. But let's look at the opposite. Haha! Opposite of the moon. So that means the moon rules general public. The general public, people, ports, harbors. But because we're talking about it don't count the houses here. The houses don't count here because it's all over the world. But the moon will be the people. But anything to do with water, magnets as well as included with that one. Cycles, seasons will be affected. But again, see, this is the moon. The moon, the moon goes it moves through every sign every 3 days, approximately 2 to 3 days. So this will be temporary. But for that specific date, there will be this opposition. So people might kind of, there might be oppositions or like literal opposition. This is an opposition aspect. They might be against the changes. People might be against the changes, or they will be for it, or they'll come to realize that it's like, oh, okay, we'll need to work with the changes, right? Because it's in Sagittarius, it's going to feel like, okay, we'll accept it. But it's in Sagittarius. Sagittarius might have a tendency to latch on to dogmatism, that hardened belief that's like, this is my way, not your way, I know better, so all that stuff. It'll definitely affect also the general public, like the higher education of the public. So there'll be changes with that regarding all that stuff. But it'll come to, if people choose to balance, depending on the collective and individual consciousness at that time. So it'll come back in February 2, 2026. So that means it'll still be, I didn't draw up that chart, but for now, this is what I see as of 2025. I know that's like way ahead, but it's fun to look ahead sometimes. So Uranus will be, I looked up certain asteroids because I like working with asteroids. Square Spartacus. You're like wondering, Spartacus? Spartacus as an asteroid? Yes, Spartacus is an asteroid. Isn't that fun? I love Spartacus. He's like the brother I want to fuck. It's like in the TV show, it's like, you're so delish. Right? And so, anyways, you know how there's DILF and there's like BILF. It doesn't make sense. But it's just like, yeah, baby. So, but I mean, not so much because of that. It's more like energetically, like, because so brave, like the character, at least the character in the TV show, I'm not sure, but the idea of him, the energy, I don't know. So, Spartacus, on a worldly level, rules like the powers that be, hold on, let me double check here. Nomads. There might be a nomadic lifestyle, off-grid systems, okay, or deserters. Corruption might be part of that as well. Or the opposite, complete acceptance and towards for the people. Understanding, accepting human rights might be part of that. Proletariatism, left-wing ideologies, philosophies, beliefs. So because it's in Gemini and it's square Spartacus in Leo, we're talking about governments because it's in Leo. It's ruled by the sun right here. And Leo, the sun will be in Cancer at that time. So there will be this watery sort of flavor to it. Traditions might be part of the equation here. So Spartacus here is showing basically freedom. It's an actual freedom. It's tied to Uranus, but there might be a conflict of freedom in this case because Uranus represents not just freedom but revolutions. So, but Spartacus is about the idea of that revolution, right? But there might be, because of the square here, there might be challenges. People, trying to hold on to their own freedom, their views of freedom. So there might be also human rights issues. Not that that's anything new. What is this one? Oppositions, oppressions, more revolutions, and revolutionaries might start to come up even more, particularly with music industry, which is it's funny because it's like tied to Venus, right? But because there's a connection to the sun here, I would say like family freedom pertaining to families. So there might be issues regarding like actual family systems. So because they're like, oh, there's this new AI thing coming up. There's new education systems. So families might be individualism within families, like the freedom to just be my own family. Well, my own way of raising my own family might be kind of an issue, right? So again, because of the square, it's a challenging thing. So, but that will help humanity actually be more awakened, because it's like, well, what do you mean by freedom? What is your idealized freedom? What is that? Is it freedom from other people? Is it resistance? Or is it actually like, huh, that's what they want. This is what I want. So ego is a huge thing. It's going to be a huge thing. Leo will also be pertaining to like leaders, heads of governments, this kind of things. And also, yes, the anything pertaining to the arts, or at least expression, personal expression. So personal expression of the people. But again, revolutionaries and revolutionists will be part of the whole thing as well. So, but it could be the opposite as well. Revolutionist doesn't necessarily mean like for the better technology, but maybe could be against it. Because Venus is conjunct Uranus, but Venus is square Mars right here. You can see that line right there. That square Mars is showing me that there's going to be conflicts, naturally. You know, people against people, not necessarily wars, but could be, right? I mean, what else is there, right? But this is this time to, you know, work with anger, work with, like, the military would kind of be involved in this as well, or possibly, or at least some sort of militant attitude, militant, like the feeling of like, you know, it's that Mars energy. Mars rules military. Mars rules accidents. Mars rules what else is? Let's see here. Weaponry, surgeries, okay, violence, yeah, of course, anger, destruction, arms, soldiers, physicians probably included in this one. So something to do with like the technology, probably with the let's go deeper into Venus here. Okay, so marriages. Okay, marriages, of course. So any sort of marriages that are involved in that one. So Uranus will be changing the marriage system as well, and what we know about it, because it's Gemini. The education of marriage, the education of unions, the education of possibly also women's clothing. That's interesting. Design will be part of that as well. But how that ties into Mars is, let's see here. I would say it's more like general marriage, like or there's moral character as well. But marriage in this case, like in terms of any sort of unions or agreements, this will be part of that. So there'll be people who are militant against that and be like, no, I want it this way. I want it this way. So, no, not necessarily the military, but there's a possibility. This also includes physicians, surgeons, butchers. I don't know. And then butchers. Okay. Yeah. Smiths, bakers, watchmakers, cook, carpenters. So, because of the art industry, that's more like related to Venus, and Mars is about carpentry, cooks. So there's art related to that too, right? So there might be this sort of like fighting against like, so that's one thing. With it being in Virgo, it's almost like there might be this tendency to get people getting violent towards the little things, right? Because Virgo rules little things. But it also could be injuries pertaining to, or like in the hospitals. It also could be something to do with little tiny like illnesses, like many sort of little unknown and unseen, not necessarily viruses, but like accidents, things that we may not know about. Like, you know, it's in like neighborhoods, little pockets here and there. Yeah. So But Mars also rules the top of the head. So people, I mean, this is a more medical thing, but it could be pertaining to like sort of headache. What is Mars again? The external reproductor? No, adrenal and suprarenal glands. So I don't know. I'm not really good at medical astrology, but just something to do with the head, something to do with the face, something to do with these adrenal glands. I don't know. It's maybe about getting angry, of course. I don't know. Don't take my word for that one. What else do we have here? And so we have Uranus right here, right? It's going to be square Spartacus. Because Spartacus is also square Sappho. I believe that there might be something with gay issues. Like, I mean, it's probably going to come up again. Sappho is rules like gay relationships, specifically like lesbian, but not really. It's more about intimacy and friendships. There's something else about Sappho that I personally did right here. Let's see. I keep updating my system here. Okay, single parent homes. So suicide might be an issue here because she apparently committed suicide. I'm not sure. Social constructs, okay. Patriarchy and patriarchy rule, gender inequality. So this will be an issue as well, right? Pertaining specifically to the workplace, or rather like banks, financial institution, right? So there'll be that. One thing I didn't actually mention here is because Mercury rules Gemini, we have to look into Mercury. So Mercury is specifically about communication, transmission of information, anything technological, but specifically like smaller items like that are communications, not necessarily like all types of technology, but general technology. Transportation is part of that as well. So it's going to be, it's square Osiris, and that means that there's going to be breakdowns. There's going to be also more like questioning, or at least because it's a square, questioning of like near-death experiences, and that's Osiris. Things that are breaking down, things that are falling apart, things that are torn apart. Okay, that's Osiris. Also bring that up. So kind of like, I guess what do you call that? Not revamping, like reconstructions of things. So street reconstructions, places, buildings, or maybe technological reconstructions. Try to maybe looking at how AI can be tweaked a little bit more. But this pertains to the banks because we're talking about Taurus here. So anything to do with the financial institution, economy, money, banks, trade, commerce. That's pretty much that's Taurus. So it's a square Mercury in Leo. We're talking about the information we know about governments or systems and their leaderships and leaders and anything related to that is going to be. It's going to be a breakdown of the leaderships. That kind of makes sense, right? But Osiris is also, I want to be more specific at Osiris here because I love asteroids. I love asteroids. Astro Boy? If you guys have seen Astro Boy, it's kind of like that. I'm just singing it to the tune of that and singing asteroids. Okay. So Osiris is also could be about male fertility as well. Insemination, not really sure if that pertains to the Mercury thing. Possibly, it could be. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. Recreation, recreativeness, physical recovery, resuscitation, NDE again, reanimation of things, innovation. I wouldn't be surprised if something to do with zombies or something like that. in the entertainment industry, the zombie stuff. Hidden corpses, John Does, Jane Does, like uncovered or discovered or recovered bodies. Sorry to be morbid here, but hidden, uncovered, undiscovered things, gems and rare things. Okay, human or animal remains, skeletal remains, bones. This is more medical though. So because of the placement of Mars here, there might be people who might be amputated. I'm not really sure. Amputated or having to go through prosthetics, replication, or what do you call that? Maybe a return of, or I don't know if they're still doing that, cloning. Yeah, cloning is part of this one as well. Roads and detours. So roads, there might be different change in roads as well, changing systems, or there might be people taking detours, right? Meaning when I say detours, I mean like they're kind of taking a different path to the financial system. Maybe they're trying to revamp or change the, what's that one called? Cryptocurrency. Mm-hmm. Banks are probably also doing that too. Any sort of confiscation, forfeits, forfeit money is probably included here. Lost items, lost and founds, missing persons. That one's already mentioned earlier. So that one's interesting. The forfeits or confiscated items. So, yeah. Financial institution probably going like maybe forfeits, like in terms of like the roads that no longer work, or the money that goes towards paving the roads, or just kind of fixing roads. I don't know. I feel like that's what it is. I could have done like a visual, sort of like what I do, like a visual reading, but I didn't prepare for that one. I was just kind of curious and kind of speculating what would happen here. Spartacus is going to be trined. Actually, let's go back to Mercury before we do that. So Mercury, square Osiris. Okay, Mercury is opposite Pluto. Okay. So coming into power with realization of the corruptions of systems, but it's going to be in smaller pockets. So because it's in retrograde, Pluto's here is in retrograde, and it's going to be like little bits and pieces of changes that are happening with people. So maybe little communities are going to open up a bit more, and people, there may not be any knowledge about that. We may not see that, or what they know about government is going to bring that up and kind of make use of the knowledge they have of like, oh, the system is already broken down. By this time, Pluto is already in Aquarius, but Pluto's in retrograde here. So Pluto in retrograde shows that it's I don't know. I think it's just there's some areas, some communities probably vying for power, carrying from previous, there could be, but those are small, tiny parts, right? Retrograde usually here represents like smaller areas, but it also means like a repetition of things like happening again and again and again. I don't know. I'm not really sure about that one, but for sure in smaller communities, it's a little bit more internal. So therefore internal affairs with the communications industry as well, pertaining to that and how we communicate with each other. So social media is part of this one, coming into that and realizing, oh, we have power to communicate with each other. So, but there might be an opposition between social media, anything social, anything to do with communication, and how that, there's a split. But if we come together and see how we can find, like, I guess the balance, because it is an opposition. I sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I mean, to me, again, this is a fun thing. So, what else? Okay, so Mercury is trine Moon, so that means, okay, so the people will have way to work with this energy. Right, it's trine. In fact, we have here a grand trine right here. I'm going to read that all together. We have grand trine, we have, what is that? So Mercury, Neptune, Saturn. Neptune is a retrograde, so that means, well, because Neptune has already entered, will be fully entering. Is it already in Aries? I thought this, okay, I made a mistake there. No, I'm just thinking out loud here, sorry. So Neptune in retrograde in Aries will be a new form of leadership, or at least a disillusion or changing of. It could also be delusions, like, of like what leadership could look like, especially with Saturn there. It's almost like there's like a re-solidification of leaderships, but in small areas. Again, small pockets of communities here and there in the world, but also like limitations possibly placed there because it's still Saturn. So it's almost like boundaries have to be created, or the people will be creating that naturally because you have the moon there. And there's going to be communication between those things. But because we have this opposition to Pluto, it's almost like Pluto is pulling at the communication and saying, is this what you really want? Is this what you really want? Is this true? Right? So humans will have to get together and be honest with ourselves together as a collective and individual consciousness as we get better, or at least as we evolve. That's what I meant by get better. There's still choice. So there's that grand trine. But there's also Mercury's trine Orpheus. So Orpheus rules, it's like drama. I don't know how to describe this one. Purging, right? So it's kind of like, okay, let me go into the notes here. Fandom, maybe? People will spurn groupies, fans, fan base. There might be something with fans. I don't know what that is. So there might be sort of like popular things popping up, and people will be more like into like following the trends, right? That's being fanatics. So that also means being like a fanaticism. So this ties in with the Mercury placed in Leo, which is like music and musicians, art, liars. Okay? Education is also part of this one as well. So again, it still ties into education. That's interesting. Mournful music. So because of the maybe people might die because of the Mars here. You're talking about people will be mourning. Maybe mourning leaderships, mourning the death of leaders. There will be people in the world who be, and there'll be probably because it's against the government, right? Orpheus is square the sun right here. Orpheus is also square Pholus and Thalia. Thalia, I believe, was something to do with music. Joy and laughter, okay. Okay. There might be people who are in the comedy business or comedy, in sort of the comedy industry, but also Pholus. Pholus rules. What is Pholus ruling? Interesting. Choices. Opportunities, something to do with accidents. Okay. Accidents, madness, out of specifically like being civilized, like being like suppression, maybe suppressed individuals. Like there's a sort of like feel like people holding back and kind of pulling back and saying, well, we don't want to be you don't want to be uncivilized. So there might be people against coming back to nature and be like, well, this is what we want. This is the city life. You get what I'm saying? So, but yeah, accidents has something to do with accidents, something to do with toxicity, poison. That's something to do with that. But specifically about toxic, internal toxic, like it might feel like it's comedy, something to, or it could be that something we could rejoice in because it is opposite of Jupiter. It's funny because you have Jupiter rules Sagittarius, and Moon was in Sagittarius. Jupiter rules what does it rule here? So stuff like fraudulence, religion, of course, big businesses, higher education systems, which ties into this whole thing. So that means like universities, colleges. It also rules sports, anything to do with sports here. So laws regarding all that stuff. Again, yeah, university, foreign things. So that means anything foreign. As we have here we have here an actual cardinal square. A grand cardinal square right here to Jupiter. You can't really see it, but it's right there. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, there's several things happening here. So first there's the Saturn, and in Saturn, that's not it. So we have, okay, so I'm trying to see here. Okay, so it's Jupiter square Echo. So Echo also rules language, which is funny because now that you think about it, Moon is going to be in Sagittarius. So it rules foreign things, foreign people, foreign affairs. So with Echo being there, it's not making an aspect to the Moon, but it is making an aspect to Pholus and Talia. So there'll be like, so kind of like there's going to be like sort of an irony behind all that stuff. Like it's something to do with irony, or rustic lifestyle, like farming. It's farmers. That's something to do with that too. Okay. So farming. Okay, so that means like toxic farms. Like farms will be affected. We're not seeing necessarily like a change here, but it's going to be probably like, do they continue to expand? Do they continue to do what they're doing? So with Pholus there, it's almost like there's going to be changes specifically through accident. Not necessarily changes, but it'll come to this point where it's like, what are we doing? Right? So farming industry or farms might be included there, and there might be accidents involved there or problems with, little pockets. Again, it's retrograde, but specifically systems because it's in Capricorn. So systems of the old farming systems that probably don't work anymore for the planet. With Jupiter there, it's going to kind of pull at it and make it sort of like, is this what we want, right, as a society? Because Jupiter is in Cancer. In fact, Jupiter is going to be in an exalted, because it's exalted in Cancer. It's gonna fit right into like changing in terms of like what it means for the homes, for families, for communities, specifically families, and seeing how is that going to feed the world as a bigger family or in smaller pockets of families, right? And big business is going to be pulling at it too. Big business is going to be pulling at it and saying, okay, well, we need to kind of see what are we going to do next. So it's going to be like, that doesn't work anymore. Because you see right here, there's going to be little pockets of systems that no longer work, right? You're seeing this pattern again and again, right? I want to go back into Echo here, because Echo squares Jupiter, Echo squares the Sun. Jupiter, Sun conjunct here. that means it's just going to be, again, ignore the midheaven. This is not pertaining to the world. This is just a location. So with the sun there, it's going to be governments and big businesses kind of like working together. But square echo, it's almost like things that are kind of left out, things that are forgotten, things that we forgotten from the past, which is funny because we have Sedna is coming into Gemini. That's one thing I didn't put here. Sun is already in Gemini by this time. It's already in now, but it's bringing in the past beliefs from the past and seeing how we could change that. There's something to do with mythology, something to do with fairy tales and magic. And that's the general thing about Sedna. But that kind of ties in with what's happening with Echo here, things that are forgotten, things that are coming back, or maybe they don't come back. Maybe there might be distractions as well. Okay. Echo's in Libra, so that means there might be a feeling of indecisiveness, social structures, or like people not knowing what they want, or governments not knowing what they want, and kind of figuring out, they're kind of like vacillating. And things that are repeating as well. Things that are we're repeating the past as well. Mimicry, copying, okay, repetitions, regurgitation is part of that as well. So things that are coming up will be like little pockets of, there might be a pull towards really expressing that for certain people or certain groups and collectives, be more expressive. There'll be more expression, there'll be more exaggeration. That is also Jupiter, but it's also Orpheus. So there'll be like this wheeling, there'll be like sort of feeling that it's like things are going to be like, it's like, oh, why? Right? And Orpheus will be singing, right? And because of all that, so people will be more, I would say, change will have to be pushed. I mean, at least a knowledge of that, going back to Uranus and Mercury here, right? Sorry, Uranus and Gemini. But Echo, again, is about forgotten things that are repeating themselves. It also rules like the service industries, servants, servitude, those kind of things. But the service industries probably are going to go through some changes there as well. Or at least wondering if they're continuing to expand on that. Because we're looking at Echo here in Libra, and Venus rules Libra. Right. Let's not forget Eris. Eris is still going to be in Aries. That means that there's going to be this definite. I think Eris will be in Aries. Let's double check. Oh, I closed it. Okay, never mind. So Aries will probably still be in Aries at this time. So that means it's going to be forced, not forced. Aries works in a very pacifist way. So there will be changes where humanity will have to learn from its mistakes. And Aries will just be laughing. I mean, I say laughing, I mean like there's this sort of feel like it's like, why did I do that? Okay, crap. And then we just laugh at it. I know that sounds like maybe that's not what people want to hear right now, but I feel like that's probably one of the things that is going to take place, because it's going to force us to look back and say the absurdity of it all, right? So Echo will be showing us here with Orpheus opposite, and kind of to learn how to balance. It's like, some things we've forgotten in the past, how to be more connected. That's Libra. And Orpheus will be singing out like this call for personal leadership. With let's look into the third house. So the moon is here, but the Mars and Pluto, we already gone through that. Mars and Pluto rule the third house here because of Scorpio. So it's going to be definite, where's that one? Communities coming together in little pockets because of the Virgo placement there. It's little, and also Aquarius here because of Pluto, Mars in those signs. That explains that. What else do we have here? Let's look at the North nodes. So the North node will be in Pisces here. There'll be things related to issues like health related stuff, specifically like beauty. So the beauty industry will be more towards this. It'll be a dissolution as well because it is in Pisces. So that means that there's going to be some sort of changes, kind of more subtly. And humanity will have to face that and be like, what's real and what's not real, because it is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. Here, Jupiter is in Cancer, so it's more like the beauty industry pertaining to like, how does that help families? What is beauty, right? But also Neptune here, so this call for leadership. But because we have Neptune here, let me look at Neptune. So movies, yeah, movies pertaining to movies, TV, music, glamour. Oh, maritime stuff. Let's see what we have here. Well, it's sextile to both Uranus, yeah, both Uranus and Venus. So Neptune, this sextile Neptune, it's almost like we would have to work hard at it to have like some sort of integrity towards what is right for, what is this whole entertainment thing, like how is the movie industry going to change here? How is it going to change what we see on TV or anything like related to entertainment, right? But we'll also, it's almost like there's going to be this like systemized, it's going to be a systemized sort of way of not necessarily entertaining anymore. It's more like it's still entertainment, but it's for the sake of new type of entertainment. How is it going to? It's about, I think, just something to do with mysteries as well. So it's almost like as things come back from the past, we're sort of getting to the mystery of these things and kind of creating maybe our own mysteries, our own little beliefs, our own. I don't know. We'll have to be conscious about that one instead of making it again like another type of like systemized or doctrine, right? It'll have to be something else. Petroleum industry is also probably going to be affected here. So there's going to be what is this one? Well, I don't know. This is a funny one. More expansion of the petroleum system. I don't know if that's going. I don't know if by then it's going to be different. I'm not sure. Maybe it's going to be big businesses relating to maybe related to pedagogy. Okay, so this okay, yeah, because it is the education system, so different types of system. But again, it's all about, Saturn is about tradition and orthodoxy, conventionality, and kind of like classification, solidification of things. So with this new thing, there might be new laws involved here, new systems, or there might be blocks towards that. Because it's going to be, because Saturn here is square Jupiter, so big businesses might be blocked. Okay, so the expansion of these petroleum industries might be blocked as well. So that's so petroleum, for those who don't know what that is, so gasoline, fossil fuels, that kind of industry. So wow, that long. Meaning like you have to wait to 2025. Okay. The Uranus, the change in Uranus, Uranus Venus right here, still trying to Pluto. Things that are naturally going to happen is like communal changes, specifically pertaining to education. So little pockets of communities here and there all over the world are going to be changing that. So there is going to be a breakdown. The general gist of this whole thing is there is going to be a breakdown of the education system. I did not mention Cleopatra here. Cleopatra would be retrograde right here, 24 degrees Libra, opposite of Chiron. But Chiron is actually square Pluto. So there's going to be a lot of return of wounding of this, so collective wounding, but there's also going to be something to do with hospitals. So nursing, hospitals, health. So chiropractors, so chiropractic offices, there might be more tradition, a different way, because it's in the last degrees of Aries. It's more headed towards Taurus. It has that feeling of like things that are more grounded. Maybe leadership that's more grounded. We need to go into leadership that are leaders that are actually going to lead us, so that we find a way to heal. But Cleopatra here rules to the unmet needs of society. In this case, you'd be questioning patriotism, what's coming after, oligarchies versus autocracies. Okay, legislations, law is probably part of this one as well. Progenies and heirs, a search for independence against patriarchy or rebelliousness, rejection of tradition. So that's another layer. We have the basic planets in astrology, but I like astrology. I like using asteroids in astrology to add a layer to these things. So again, going back to the Chiron thing, it's going to be like system breakdown of specifically like maybe hospitals, the medical field is going to be changing that. But it is also chiropractic, anything to do with chiropractics, like bones, anything related to bones, which is interesting because Mars rules, right? Mars here rules, because this is Virgo, but Virgo, Chiron is at home in Virgo. And Mars rules Aries, and Chiron is in Aries. Ties in really right away. I know that ties together. You remember how I said earlier about the whole accident stuff? Yeah. So things that are happening. So a lot of accidents, educational reform, accidents, change in society, belief in governments or non-belief in governments, governmental, like kind of like big business, like blockages and roadblocks, or kind of like these things are coming about. But you get the point. So rewind back to the video if you'd like to. That's the gist of what's happening. Or I can't really say anymore because there's more. There's really more to this than this, but there are other asteroids we could work with. But these are the ones pertaining directly to education. So, all right. I hope that was helpful. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.